Hello. So here we are again on another wet, cloudy day today. What really struck me as we were walking today, and I was trying to think about what I might chat to you about, was just how bare everywhere still looks. It's early spring and creatures, wildlife, queen bees are starting to emerge from hibernation, and there's still so little for them to feed on. There are barely any flowers, just bar the few, and a lot of the hedgerows have now been cut back, almost scalped, which means that some of their habitats have been lost. And I just thought I'd have a chat about how we can maybe protect those creatures or help them in the early spring, late winter, and what we can do at home. Today I thought I'd share a few things about ivy, a much maligned plant that even last week was causing disagreements on social media as people were looking for ways to kill it, thinking that it was strangling their trees or just a nuisance. And it's just so sad to read that kind of distrust of this plant, I guess. Ivy is invaluable for wildlife. It provides a habitat for birds and invertebrates, and in the autumn its flowers are a rich source of nectar to so many beneficial insects like hoverflies, wasps and bees. In the late winter and early spring, its swollen black berries provide food for wood pigeons, thrushes, robins and blackbirds. Though those berries would be poisonous for us to eat in any great quantity, and they do contain a sap that can irritate our skin if we manage to get it on us. Ivy's an evergreen climber that can grow up to 30 metres, and it's only in relatively recent years that I discovered it has the two leaf forms. The juvenile leaves that many of us recognise with the 5 pointed lobes, or 3 to 5 depending on the age of the leaf, which develop to oval or heart-shaped leaves without lobes as the plant matures. These leaves are often accompanied by the flowers, which yellowish green kind of umbels that are so unusual looking and quite striking when there's not much else around. And these produce the magical nectar that insects rely on before they go into hibernation. Contrary to opinion, ivy is not a parasitic plant. It rarely damages trees. It only provides a problem to those that are already weakened or dying. And if they get caught in gusts of wind, the weight of the ivy can then bring them down. But usually a healthy tree, it's not really a problem. It's really not in the ivy's interest to kill a tree, as it's using the ivy as support to head upwards and reach the light so it can carry on growing. It's not considered a tree safety issue. There are some wonderful myths around ivy. It suggests that if we wear a wreath of ivy leaves around our heads, it will stop us getting drunk. So apparently that came from the Roman god of intoxication, Dionysus, who was often depicted wearing a wreath of ivy and grapevines. Ivy was also considered a symbol of fidelity, and wreaths would have been presented to married couples. And it's still often included in bridal bouquets for that reason. So with the lack of colourful flowers, other than the odd bit of gorse or the few coltsfoot and dandelions, lesser calendine are starting to appear on very sunny days, I'm wondering how the bees are managing as they come out of hibernation. There's so little for them to forage on at this time of year. Bees' whole life cycles depend on interactions with flowering plants. Over the recent sunny spell, people were sharing images on social media of how they were finding very tired queen bees that had just come out of their burrows, out of hibernation, and they were so weak. They were feeding the bees with teaspoons of sugar water just to try and give them enough energy to keep going and get back to their nest. It's unlikely that queen bumblebees will nest in small gardens, but they certainly come and visit. And there are a few things we can do. In the autumn months, we can plant bee-friendly spring bulbs such as crocuses and grape hyacinths, snowdrops, the perennial hellebores and aubrietia, And shrubs such as Mahonia, Berberis and Cotoneaster are all great for pollinators as they emerge. Importantly, or crucially really, it's important that we leave dandelions to flower. They're such an incredibly beneficial plant for bees in the springtime. If you're worried about dandelions taking over your lawn, you could perhaps consider just leaving strips around the edge of the lawns, or if you've got a larger garden, just leave an area that's flowering with the dandelions. Alternatively, delay mowing, so just maybe mow once every 4 or 5 weeks rather than weekly. And although it's a bit of a pain to collect all the lawn clippings, at least you know that you have done a really good deed for the bees as they come out. Also, dandelion seed heads, the clocks, are a great source of food for goldfinches. And in the past we've made a type of dandelion honey, or it's more like a marmalade, from those vibrant yellow flowers. If you're wondering what you can do to help pollinators, check out pollinators.ie. Their resources section has a really helpful planting guide, and it gives you ideas of plants, native and ornamental, that you can plant for all year flowering. It also links to the RHS website, which has a more detailed list, so do have a look for those. And whatever you do, just spare a thought for those hungry bees at this time of year.